Good night. Welcome to another episode of Pursuit. Things are a little different. There's an empty space. Don't worry, Kevin's not off the shoot indefinitely. I don't think that would be allowed. But tonight we're starting a new series for the month. Asha, do you want to tell the people what it is?
It's called Jesus in Our Generation.
And what does that mean?
It means Jesus is in our generation.
Okay, so I don't know if you've noticed this, but our generation, because we're a mix of millennials and Gen Z, right? Within our youth group. But it's basically like the technology era. So our generation is a bit different in terms of what we're exposed to and the like social standards among us. So this series is kind of just bringing him into that, which he should have already been in to begin with, but that's a different conversation. So this week we are talking about technology.
Mm-hmm. So we all know, as you said, that technology is a huge part of this generation. And the first question that I have for you is, what was your reaction when you lose your phone?
I don't think I've ever actually lost it. I might have misplaced it around the house or something, but I always you have to find your phone. I could be not even using my phone, but I need to be I need to know where it is at all times. It's like that mini panic attack. That's not a real panic attack, but it's I need to have it. It's I don't know if this reference is safe for church, but I was gonna say it's like a crackhead. You know what I mean? You need to find your fix. You need to find it. But yeah.
Yeah, same. I mean, there will be moments where I have my phone in my hands and I'm like, where's my phone? And I'm freaking out and people are like, isn't it in your hand though? And I'm
I don't think I've ever had that.
Well, I think that's, if we can use the word, a new definition to a crackhead.
Yeah.
Is the fact that I had it in my hand and I was freaking out. Yeah, but that just goes to show you that how much we, I think, rely on technology. So I know in our culture, it's a huge thing. So how do you think that it affects our culture?
I think our culture as the teenage young adult culture, or American society?
I feel like American society.
Okay. I think technology has it's done good and bad things, and that I would say the good thing is it's connected a lot of people that probably wouldn't have met or they might have lost connection over time. But it's also kind of desensitized a lot of people in certain ways. So a lot of times you'll hang out with your online friends, or you'll just end up streaming shows for hours instead of having actual social interaction with people around you. So I feel like in that way the culture has changed a little bit, in that it's connected and it's also pushed apart certain people, but it's also put a lot of pressure on the youth to kind of fit this model standard of what society thinks you should be. And we kind of touched upon that in the Girl Talk episode as well.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, as you said, there are a lot of positives and negatives. And although culture, I mean, technology has kind of pushed our culture together. I also feel like, as you said, that it takes away the intention of a lot of things. We don't necessarily connect with each other as we would if we didn't have technology. In a way, we're meeting new people through the internet, but I also feel like it makes it a little impersonal and awkward. If you're in, you can easily text someone, and then when you meet them in person, you're like,
Yeah, I think it's that face-to-face interaction that is lost on a lot of people. But then again, I feel like there was within millennials and Gen Z, there is a gap of people that are just immediately do not call me on the phone, just solely text me. But now there's that resurgence of kids are FaceTiming their friends all the time because like especially with COVID and stuff, you need that interaction. So like one of my cousins, she's always FaceTiming with her friends. Even if they're gonna go hang out, she's gonna FaceTime with her like the whole time she's getting ready until she's actually in front of her. So I think there is that like that portion of the generation that missed that social interaction cue, but it's coming back up into that, like people are recognizing that you need it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I do that sometimes with
You
my
FaceTime.
friends.
I
Like,
hate
even though
FaceTime. I think it depends. It depends.
I like FaceTime more than calling on the phone. I think that's awkward.
I would prefer a phone call over a FaceTime a lot of times.
Really?
I mean, I also have an Android, so my options are a little different. But
I think what needs to happen is you need to switch to an iPhone.
immediately no. Immediately no. Tomatoes.
You heard what you needed to hear. But how have you think that social technology has made it easier for us?
As Christians or as a generation?
I guess as both.
As both. So I think, well, actually, it's kind of a similar answer for both. I think it's allowed us to have access to a lot more information and a lot more like resources that we would have had before. Because like when I was growing up, you had one main computer that was in like a social area.
Mm-hmm.
So you were limited as to what you could do because you don't know who else needs a computer. The internet was like slow, or you had dial up, or like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the resources that you had access to were very limited. But now you can I can ask my phone anything and it'll give me all of the answers. But with that, I think a lot of people, or a lot of us, I can speak for myself too, I've gotten lazy in looking for things because, again, I can just ask my phone and it'll just tell me. Mm-hmm. So I won't put in a lot of the work that I normally would, like checking the credible sources and, like, you know, verifying that this is true and this is false. And there's so much information out there that sometimes it is hard to tell what is true and what is not. Mm-hmm. So it's like what is it? A double-edged sword, because you have access to all of these things and you want to use all of your things, but how you don't know what is true and what you should use or not.
Yeah, that reminds me of like when I was in elementary school, my teachers, they used to be like, well, you guys have it easier because you guys have technology. You can look things up really quick. And we actually had to like do research in books and find our information. And I'm like, but this is the time, like it's changed. Like, why would we not be more efficient and just like, you know, use the technology given?
Exactly. Like, aren't you putting in the work now to make the future easier for the people to come after you?
Exactly.
But we used to look through the books all the time. It wasn't like because we absolutely had to, but like there's some times where you just have to look through the books.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I can't remember the last time I looked that up.
No, I'm talking about like in elementary school.
Yeah.
This is not recent at all.
Yeah. And also, like, I feel like with that being able to adapt to technology, and us just having to keep up with it, I'm glad that Christianity also is like adapted with us in a way. Like there's the Bible app and there's a lot of like sermons that we can look up on YouTube, and like, because I feel like without it, like I don't know that I would be like picking up my Bible and like flipping through to like be that motivated to you know, like if I know that the app is on my phone, so I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna look through it and like read, but like I don't know how motivated I would have been without those things
with the technology.
Yeah.
I also love the fact that there's a lot of like Christian content creators, because even if they're not like preaching a sermon, they're the content that they're pushing and that they're creating is based on like either the Bible, like church experiences, or like, you know, social interactions that I can relate to as well, because as someone that's grown up in the church, it's like you're not limited to just seeing people that are out in the world on social media. It kind of opens up a lot of more doors for you to feel comfortable looking through things on your phone.
Yeah. That also reminds me of like the biblical story of Hosea. And if you don't know, his wife, Gomer, right? That's how you pronounce it? Yeah.
It's like Homer, but with a G.
Gomer.
She was the No, I'm kidding.
But like she was basically unfaithful during her marriage. She would like run away and like try to find validation from like other people instead of like her marriage, and trying to like be fulfilled there. She was finding other ways to fulfill her, and that just reminded me of, like, I feel like we do that in our everyday lives. Like, I look through social media, and like
All the time.
it's just like this black hole where it's like you can't stop looking, like you don't want to get rid of it, but it's also like you're not feeling totally great when you're scrolling, because you're just feeling like, validation. You're trying to get validation, and you're like looking at other people's lives, and you're like, oh, like I wish that was mine, or like certain like things.
I find, especially when it comes to the summer months, there's like all these cute different places that are on like your Instagram or your like whatever, like, oh, places in New York City that you have to try. And it's like, I just send my friends all these places. It was like, okay, we're going to go here. We're going to go here. We're going to go here. So you're always searching for that like next like cute spot or that next place with all the good food and stuff. And it's like, when are you actually going to get a chance to do all of these things? Because I can literally, I have a list on my phone, right? I showed you before.
Oh yeah, of all the places.
Yeah, it's literally a list of just places that I just messed up my list. But it's just a list of places that I'm trying to hit this summer. I've gone to 2 of them so far.
Nice.
And it's been like a month and a half. But it's like, it's that thing where you're always searching for the next big thing or the next like something to satisfy what you're looking for. But I think, were you going to continue with the story of Hosea with his wife? Because I don't want to cut you off. I don't want to. Okay. Because when she was out there searching for her validation, searching for her next like big break or whatever, she ended up getting like taken to be sold into slavery. And so when Hosea found her, she was like on a stage, like stripped on an auction. And so he had like, he talked to God, the homeboy, right? And God was like, well, you need to pay full price and redeem her. Like you need to buy her back at her full worth. And that was kind of like, that was like an example of God saying like, I will buy you back at your full worth because you are worth it to me. Like you can think you're not worth it and you're not validated in all these different places, but you are created in my likeness and image, and you are worthy of all the things you think you're not. So it's like social media and technology is kind of tells us like, hey, you need to fit this standard. You need to do these things and look this good. But God kind of says like, no, you don't. I created you to be the person that I wanted you to be. So you just kind of have to like separate yourself from this worldly image and look at the biblical and the godly image of who you are and who I want you to be.
Yeah. And I think that that's really great, because even though like we struggle like finding a relationship with him, like we would rather like scroll through social media than like, take 5 minutes to like, read,
pray or read. Yeah.
Or we'll be easily distracted by like a notification or something, and, forget to prioritize our time with God. Like he still is here, and he's like, you're fine. Like you come back to me. I'm here. Like I don't look at you any differently than, you're looking at yourself or other people would look at you.
Yeah. I think it's that momentary satisfaction that kind of gets you trapped, because you're like, ooh, someone's texting me, someone hit me up, let me go see what they want from me or whatever. Where it's like, God, you kind of have to, sometimes you have to wait and listen and seek for him to speak to you, like not speak to you, but to see what he's saying to you and see like what he wants for you. And it's that delayed gratification that a lot of us aren't used to. Because I think I was reading somewhere and it said that nowadays our attention span is shorter than that of a goldfish.
Oh yeah.
And a goldfish's attention span is like non-existent.
Oh, goldfish creep me out.
Why?
Just like fish in general.
Why do fish creep you out?
They just like swimming over there, Ugh.
Not even like the sliminess of the fish, just the fact that they are
like
fish.
They're slimy, and like I don't want to explain it on camera. Like maybe I'll tell you after. But I was really judged.
Join our Patreon. No, I'm kidding.
I was really judged explaining why fish creep me out, so I'm not gonna say it on camera. But.
Got it. You see, this is what the social media does to you.
Exactly.
You can't be your true self because you're worried about what other people are gonna think of you and say of you.
See, God knows. He knows.
He knows.
My feelings are very valid.
Yes, your feelings are valid.
So another question is, how often do you think that you're able to address or sit with uncomfortable feelings.
Oh, definitely not as often as I should.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we touched upon this also in the mental health stuff, but I don't like uncomfortable thoughts.
Me too.
I do everything I can to avoid thinking about them and just distract myself, which is why I spent so much time either on my phone or talking to other people that I don't need to divulge my life to.
Yeah. I know we talked about putting uncomfortable feelings in there.
Yeah, we put it in our box and push it away.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I do with my phone is it's a easy distraction instead of sitting there. Because if you have a moment alone to think with your thoughts, you're like, whoa, everything is just coming back and I have to address these feelings, which you probably should,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just easier to be on your phone and to scroll and whatever.
And I think that's kind of one of the big differences between the generation before us and now, because a lot of times they're able to have those tougher conversations. And as just a regular occurrence, they don't have to think about it that much. Whereas if I'm uncomfortable enough, I will cry.
Yeah.
I will cry. It doesn't take a lot. Just even thinking about it right now, give me a second, they're coming.
Oh my God,
They're coming.
Do you need a second to scroll?
No, I'm good. I've also been really good at closing the box. So
these are not good things. Please deal with your boxes.
Yeah, please deal with your boxes. But yeah, that's what I think technology has really allowed us to close those boxes, which I think is one of the cons about it. But also with this newer, the newer Gen Zs, the younger ones, the 2000s Gen Zs, they're a lot more open with talking about it because they just have no filter at all. They'd be like, yeah, I'm depressed today. I was thinking about just not eating for the rest of the day because I just didn't want to anymore. And I think that's my depression talking. And it's like, wow, I didn't know we could talk about these things.
Yeah, because there's such a negative thing
the
on
stigma and mental health doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Just think happy thoughts. Just look cute and you'll think cute. It's that's not how it works.
Yeah, the new generation scares me a bit, but power to them.
A lot of it.
But also I feel if we don't deal with those feelings, it does stunt our ability to mature and grow.
Yeah.
So in what ways do you think ignoring your emotions can negatively affect your life?
It can do it in a lot of ways because so ignoring negative emotions, even the slightest anxiety that you have, if you just ignore it, well, first of all, if it's a slight anxiety, it's kind of your body telling you hey, this is an important thing, you should probably do it, not necessarily a bad feeling. So just because you're a little stressed about a situation doesn't mean it's negative, because a little stress is healthy for your body, and it's just your body telling hey, this is really important, we should prioritize this.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times we get because of how easy things are with technology, we take that little bit of stress and we kind of exacerbate it. And that's why I think anxiety and depression are very common amongst our age group, because we had it easy until we didn't. And then we didn't know how to talk about those things because the generation before us didn't teach us how to talk about those things. And it's it's not their fault because that wasn't a thing that crossed their mind.
Yeah.
But I think technology has one of its cons was that it allowed you to have things easy. I feel like I said the same thing 4 times. And that's my anxiety speaking.
No, but I also feel it's important to say what you said 4 times, because it's just it'll just go through one ear and just out the other.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to hear it multiple times for it to process. And I completely hear what you're saying. I feel it's just technology has just been such an easy escape for everybody that nobody knows how to handle anxiety. They don't, as you said, it doesn't have to be a negative thing, but it is a negative. It people see it as a negative thing because we don't know how to handle stress, emotions, depression. We've never been able to talk about it, talk through it to an extent. So I feel that's why we feel the way we do.
Yeah. And I think I'm so glad that this younger generation is breaking those walls and like talking about it, because it makes even me as like an older Gen Z, ooh. Like you feel seen, even though like these children are like children. And it's like, wow, they're so much more like emotionally mature than I am. But I'm glad that they're able to flesh these feelings out before they get to be my age, where it's like I was almost crying at the thought of even thinking about uncomfortable thoughts.
Yeah. And that just like makes me think, like, if we had more connection to our emotions and not like technology, like I feel like we would have a better relationship and connection with family, because I do think that technology kind of takes from that time that you should be spending with family.
Yeah. I think not only the relationship with family, but the relationship like with God. Because like you mentioned before, it's you get any little notification and you're just immediately drawn to that versus what you're currently doing in the moment. So like technology has done its good in connecting people that have moved away from family, but it's also for the family that you are with. You're kind of on your phone more so than you are talking to them, or not even just your phone, but like you're watching TV, like you're listening to a podcast. Like I would be home, like doing like a chore or something. My parents are both home, but I'm listening to a murder mystery podcast. And it's like, I could talk to them. But then I got my dad in on the podcast, so now it's kind of like a thing.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of worked out for the better. But it's still like technology plays a big role. And it's until you like check your privilege, I guess, to have it, you don't realize that it's taking up such a big portion of your life.
Yeah. I feel like you need to really set boundaries for yourself. Like I remember when we took a trip to Trinidad, and I could not go that trip without my phone. Like I needed Wi-Fi. I was like, every house I went to, I was like, do you have Wi-Fi? Like, what's the password? And then it took like actually the street, like the power went out, and so there was no Wi-Fi, and I was freaking out. But then it really took that drastic measure of like them like really cutting it off, being like, oh, there's no way for me to like that was the best day of my life. Just spending time with my cousins and family. Like that was the best part of the trip. And that just goes to show you that how much technology, I think, like, I mean, as you said, like your podcast and you and your dad have that together. Like, I think it could be a positive thing, but you also need to.
It comes with a lot of negative.
Yeah.
I realized, so when we were younger, we had taken a trip to Guyana, and I don't think I had a phone at the time, but my sister did. So I remember she was like constantly asking about Wi-Fi. But then when you get there, I think because we grew up without phones until like 8th or 9th grade. So I take that as a like more of a blessing than a curse, just because I had those 13, 14 years of my life where I was able to just not have a phone and just be there. So it was easier for me to like switch on and off. But I've realized throughout the years, as you have technology more and you have your phone more, you're on it all the time. So like this weekend was one of my cousin's bridal showers, and we were all decorating and setting up, but one of the girls was like just on her phone the whole time, and you have to keep calling her like, hey, come help me do this, and it's like that's kind of where you see the difference between the younger ones and the older ones, because one of them was like, I'm not going to do anything until someone tells me to do stuff. And the rest was like, all right, what do you need me to do now? What do you need me to do now? Like you grow up and you don't have a phone, so you're looking for things to do versus having it. And it's like, well, I'm just going to sit here until someone calls me to do something else.
Yeah.
And it's like those times where you're setting up and you're decorating, it's like, it's a bonding time with your cousins. Cause I haven't spoken to her in like this amount of time. Like I haven't spoken to her for this long since we were probably like kids.
Yeah.
And it's wild that like, you're just like decorating, you're talking, you're catching up, and it's like, wow, you're doing so many things now. It's like, you're an adult.
Yeah.
It's wild to me. And she's also getting married, which is also another big step. And she's to be an adult.
I know, it's wild. I don't know how we got here.
I didn't get anywhere.
I mean, no. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like time is just...
It's going.
It's moving.
It's going.
Yeah.
But how do you think technology has affected your relationship with God? Or like your Christian walk, I guess?
I think there's both positive and negative.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, like because the times are changing, it's so much easier for me to be on my phone and I see the Bible app and I'm like in it before I have to read a little bit before I go to sleep
Mm-hmm.
every night. Like that's the time that I set aside. And in a negative way, like I do get distracted very easily where it's like if I get a notification or like sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know if I feel like it, but I always feel like scrolling on social media, you know? So I feel like there are both two sides to it.
Yeah. I think it's kind of the same for me, and I guess for a lot of people around our age. It's like it's easier to just scroll mindlessly versus actually take the time to actively read the Bible and actively think about what God's trying to tell you, because it just takes more brain power. But also with like the stressors of like school, work, and like society nowadays, I think we use that as an excuse to just turn your brain off and just scroll,
Mm-hmm.
which is also not a healthy coping mechanism, because you like I get take like being able to like turn like your brain off and just mindlessly scroll for a little bit, but there also needs to be that boundary where you set, because you can end up just scrolling for like hours. And like I don't know about the other apps, but I know TikTok has like that thing where if you're scrolling for too long, it'll tell you, hey, like what is it, like get some water, get a snack, go walk.
Really?
It does. I've fallen down the rabbit hole once or twice. Or like if I'm in bed and I can't sleep and I'll just scroll and be like, hey, it's getting late. And then I'll be like, okay, I'll go until I get it one more time. And then it comes back. And then, all right, now I really have to go to bed. But it's like, if I had spent that time like in meditation and in prayer with God, like where would I be today?
Exactly.
It's like, I can't really live in those regrets because it'll just spiral me, like, you know, but it's good to step back and take inventory of these times that you have like wasted mindlessly scrolling when you could have been doing more productive things.
Yeah, and I always feel like when you do take that time to prioritize God and you just feel so much better. Like there's just so much peace within you and you're like, you know, I need to keep this up. I need to keep it going.
Yeah. It's like you're constantly like, well, not constantly, I guess, but you're always like trying to achieve that peace that you can only, because you're not going to get that scrolling through TikTok, scrolling through Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. You're only going to get that from God and like from meditating on his word and what he is saying to you, which I think is with the amount of technology that we have, it's easier to access not only his word, but what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Because depending on the version that you're reading or like, the verse that it can be a little tricky sometimes to not only interpret it into like now, like language now, but to interpret what it is actually trying to say to you. But with that, it's also important to check your sources. Because I remember I was prepping to speak in youth service one night, and I was like, hey, I don't know like what sources I should do, but I found these and they seem to align with what, like, you know, I think it's saying. What do you think? And I sent it to like, I don't know, I think it was Kevin or Eric or like a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin was like, actually that's probably not the best source. Like it's decent, but there are better ones. And then he gave me like a bunch of other things to look up. And that was like a good help because one, it shows you more credible sources that you could use that are more accurate and more aligned with what God is saying. And it shows you what you shouldn't be using and what you need to look out for amongst those other sources that are just a random person just saying, I think it says this.
Yeah, there's a lot more perspective and like resources out there, which are so much better. Like technology has really helped us in the way that we can look at something and get a million different, you know, although, you know, we have to check our resources and whatever our sources, but it's good. Like I feel like it gives you a better understanding to something.
For sure. And I think that kind of goes into what we're going to be talking about next week, which is, should I do a teaser?
Yeah.
Ooh, teaser. We're going to be talking about religion as a whole, like in today's society. A little bit more of a teaser. We're going to be talking about like what is the difference between spirituality and religion? We won't answer it just yet. Stay tuned. Yeah. Are there any other technological commentaries that you have for this episode?
Set boundaries for yourself.
Yes. And make sure you stick to them
Mm-hmm.
because it's easy to say that you're going to set them and then just not do them at all. I have done that. I still do it sometimes.
Same.
It's really easy to slip up. Yeah. With that, have a good day, night. I do this every time and I keep saying I'm not going to do it, but I still do it. Have a good life. All right. Until the next episode, make good decisions and live your best life in Christ. Amen.